Welcome to Bay Cities FC, where we will become the professional club of choice for the next great generation of top NorCal youth players. We're committed to building a team that is infused with the diverse DNA of our community. Winning is paramount, but never forgetting our roots is our rallying cry. Help us bridge the Bay. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of the Bridge the Bay Live, dedicated to everything Bay Cities FC. Today, I am pleased to be joined by the head coach of the Bay Cities FC women's side, Coach Jason Brown. Coach, thanks for taking the time to join us today. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, I appreciate you taking the time. I know training happened today. You had some meetings, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to have this conversation. But let's get started. So, Jason, you have a impressive playing and coaching resume and background. Can you give us some insight into that CV and tell us a little bit about yourself so our fans know who's taking care of the side?
Yeah, thank you. As a player, I was. It's a little bit different from the system here. At 19, I found myself playing in the second tier of English football. So you have the Premier League, then you have the EFL, and then the Championship, then you have League One, then you have League Two. So I found myself at 19 as a goalkeeper playing in the first team, which back then was a lot more unheard of. So that's where it started. I spent 5.5 years at Gillingham. I left Gillingham in amongst being at Gillingham. I then made my Wales under-21 debut. I made my Wales under-20 debut, where I captained both sides and won Young Player of the Year, which still to date, I hold the record as the only goalkeeper to ever achieve that. So with the fantastic goalkeepers you've had over the years, Neville Southall, Wayne Hennessy, Paul Jones, I still hold on to that. So I'm very proud of that. And then from there, I left Gillingham and had a fantastic opportunity to go to Blackburn Rovers, which when they was in the Premier League, that was with the likes of Brad Friedel, Tugai, Benny McCarthy, Roque Santa Cruz. So I was able to play with some fantastic players there, and which I learned a lot. I spent 6.5 years in the Premier League. While I was at the Premier League, I made my Wales national team debut. You're in the best league, the biggest league in the world, so you play against. I was fortunate enough to play against the likes of Ronaldo, Ryan Giggs, Craig Bellamy, some fantastic players. After 6.5 years, I felt that I needed to get and play some more, so I ended up taking the trip up the M6, which is what you call a freeway. We called it a motorway, up into Scotland, where I joined Aberdeen. I signed a 2-year contract at Aberdeen. It was an adjustment in many ways, because when you're in the Premier League, you can imagine you have everything and anything you need. And then you go to, though it's the Premier League in Scotland, the financial backing is nowhere near as big. I think it's like 0.00001% of what the Premier League revenue is.
Right.
So when I was at Aberdeen, I was still playing for Wales. And in fact, that was probably my last Wales game was against Mexico in New York City, which was a great thing for me. And then I left Aberdeen. And when I left Aberdeen, I came back down to Ipswich. When I was at Ipswich, I was there with Mick McCarthy, fantastic manager. And then I just felt maybe I need to start thinking about after the game. And that's what led me to start doing my coaching badges, which I was doing with Wales. So when I moved back to London, I was coaching with Wales as well as doing my badges. And then I felt that I needed to test myself as a coach. So I started coaching kids in the community, kids with autism. And then I felt an opportunity came up to possibly go into Arsenal and coach the women there, which I felt that was a natural progression for me as a coach to, again, test myself. There's one thing growing up in a men's environment. There's another thing where you have to deal with children, especially children that have autism, and then obviously going into a woman's environment is totally different. So I felt as a coach that was a great way for me to learn and get better, especially with my communication skills and my awareness of my surroundings. And then I went in at Arsenal. I was working with Pedro Lopez, who fantastic coach. He's coached in America, learned so much from him. I was his assistant as well as the goalkeeper coach, and I was working with the likes of Emma Byrne, Rachel Yankee, Alex Scott, as well as others, Kelly. There was so many fantastic players we had, and we was playing against good teams, and I learned so much. In and amongst that, while I was coaching, because it was at Arsenal's training ground, Arsene Wenger would go for a run around the training ground in the afternoons because we trained separate from the men. So we trained in the afternoons, they trained in the mornings. And that's when I got a phone call for asking me to meet Arsene Wenger, that he wanted to meet me. And he asked, he said that he would like me to take over the goalkeeping for the men's side. So that would have been the under 23s all the way through their academy, which at the time I was also coaching at Gillingham first team, so another professional league. But when Arsenal come calling you and someone like Arsene Wenger, you get the opportunity to work with someone like that, you have to go. You're in the Champions League, you're going up against the best teams, best players in the world, as well as working with some of the best young talent. And yeah, I ended up there. I spent about, I think in total with the women and with the boys, about 3.5 years. And then I left again. I wanted to go and test myself as a coach and see other things. And I went to Vietnam and I coached in Vietnam for 8 months. It was a startup academy by one of the wealthiest people in Southeast Asia, the Ving Group. They also brought the Grand Prix to Vietnam. So we started up an academy, and I went in there as head of goalkeeping there, working with all age groups. And again, that was testing myself because the language barrier, the culture differences. I spent 8 months there, then I left there. Sorry, while I was there, I was coaching the national team goalkeeper coaches as well as working with the under 19s. And then I left there. I ended up in Bangladesh, which was a total interesting time. Got a lot of time to reflect and again working with the national team goalkeepers, and that was a great experience. But then an opportunity came with me to go to Thailand with the head coach at the time at Bangladesh was Andrew Ward. So I went to Thailand with him, and he left soon after. So I got the opportunity to then step up as head coach. But the plan was that they wanted to restructure the whole club. So they knew my experience of obviously being at Arsenal and the development side. So they wanted me to reshape the whole club, which I was doing. But again, results given and budgets and stuff like that, which was going okay. But then they was like, look, we see the great work that you're doing. Would you be interested in maybe stepping upstairs and becoming chairman and run the club? So I done, which was interesting. And I'd done that for about 2 months. And then after that, I decided that I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to get back into coaching. And then I met my fiance at the time in Thailand. So I'd spent 2.5 years in Thailand. And then I met my fiance, who was a teacher. And the decision was she's from the Bay Area for me to come here. So that's how I ended up in the Bay Area. And I was coaching at San Carlos, which has been great. But then I wanted to have a little rest from professional soccer. So I had an opportunity to meet someone from the Earthquakes, which I spoke to someone, but I just felt that it wasn't right for me to go back into football, professional soccer. So then working at San Carlos has been great, learning. Again, even though we speak the same language, it's a different culture, different way, especially with things like soccer and stuff. Saying soccer and not football is interesting for me. And then, the opportunity come for Bay Cities ladies. And I just felt I wanted to give it a try. I've had about a year and a half out of professional soccer, which is the longest I've ever had since 15. And I was just like, let me give it a try. And when I watched the girls, I just thought, wow, look how hard they're working. Speaking with Anders and listening to his dream, it's an unbelievable dream. And I think it's great. I really do. I think it's great for the Bay Area. I think it's great for women's soccer. And to just be able to be a part of this is amazing. And I'm hopeful that I can stay on and continue the work and working with these fantastic women who, they're not getting paid. Some have children, some have studies and stuff like that, but they make it to every training. We've had some problems with certain things, but you know what? They turn up. If I have to change a time, they're there, they're dedicated, and especially in this heat, they give everything. And I'm just a lucky guy who gets to coach them.
So let me ask you a little bit about this. You talked a little bit about Anders and his vision, and I've had the conversation with him as well in KC about that vision. But what has excited you about joining this community? It is a very big community. You've been a part of it with Redwood City, and here we go trying to essentially bridge the Bay and bring everybody together. I think that's a philosophy that resonates well with you. You've done it as a player, you've done it as a coach and a club director. But what excites you about this mission?
It gives the kids, as I said, it's different from the UK and probably Europe. I was a professional at the age of like 15, 16. Here, that doesn't happen, obviously. And I'm not saying we have it in a better way. You have a fantastic way with a school system and stuff like that. But maybe in Europe, there are opportunities, trying to get into professional soccer at the age of 20, 21 or 23 even. Some players have already got 100 odd league games under their belt, which makes it difficult. And one thing I've noticed here is that when the kids get to a certain age, they age out and there's nothing. That's it. Like, thank you for, they've been at the club for 10 years. Thank you for paying your fees. And then that's it. Where this gives people the opportunity to showcase their talent against other talented players. And that's what Bay City offers. It offers something for the girls and the boys, is that when you get to a certain age, you can go into Bay Cities and be at a professional club if you're good enough and the fit's right. And then you get to showcase your talent around the US. And I've already incorporated, so that we have one girl who was a 2004 at Juventus, is now training with Bay Cities. I have another girl who was at San Carlos in 2004. She's now playing at Bay City. So for me, it's, when Anders said what he wanted to do, I was like, brilliant. Let's try and bring this together. And me obviously being at San Carlos and now at Juventus, I get to see the young talent. And it's like, okay, come over, train with us, get used to it. And then let's give these young kids something to aim for. And it's inspirational. I have the young girls from San Carlos, they even come and watch training. That's what that does to this community, is that now these kids are seeing these players right there. And now these kids are going home practicing more than they ever did before. That's what this great vision that Anders has brought to the Bay Cities is now giving to the community.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the vision and what's going on. We saw a matchup against the California Storm. It was your first match out. You had maybe 2 or 3 training sessions off of that. How has the team come together since that day, that first match out against the Storm? What improvements and what maturation have you seen from the girls in your vision and what you're trying to accomplish as the head coach?
No, the girls are coming along nicely. Coming in, as I said, the cultural differences, the way I may pronounce things and word things is not easy for them sometimes, and for myself. So trying to get that vision and asking them to do something different. again, the college system is a great system here, but I think sometimes the emphasis is more about winning than development. And when you're developing players, part of their education is being able to adapt. And unfortunately, some of them haven't had that experience of having a different coach or being able to adapt. So when coming in with me, there's been some, what I say, teething problems. And I mean, just me, something simple like passing back to the goalkeeper, which is regarded as a negative pass. Well, it's not, because if your team keeps possession, it's actually the goalkeeper, when you have the ball, is now an 11th player. So there's been things like that, and asking them and just giving them that trust. Letting them know that I trust them, which I do, to play, and I feel confident in them because they're a talented bunch of girls. So slowly but slowly, we're building, and you can see in performances we're getting better and better. It's just, unfortunately, I'm thinking about 4 weeks we end up going our separate ways again. But I like to think by the end of that, the girls would have had a good education, even though it's been a short one, of just seeing things from a different perspective and differently, but also, just letting people know that we're out there. And as I said, all of these girls come from, though they all are from the area, they've all been all over the US, and everyone's got different lives going on. And the way they just come together and their dedication, especially in women's soccer, I've really seen from the girls all the way through to women, their dedication to soccer and their coaches is amazing.
Let's touch on that in a second here, but I want to ask, and I'm curious because I noticed in the second half of the game against De Anza 2 Sundays ago that you emphasized on playing in the back and trying to build out of it. It seemed as though, the first 15, 20 minutes, there was a reluctancy, and then towards the end of the match, definitely some growth, and the ball started to get forward more. Is that something that you really want to see? It's not as much about doing it in training, but it's doing it in a game, being active in the game, trying to accomplish that no matter the outcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure, because the message has to be consistent. Again, when you're playing winning games and your jobs are on the line, yeah, I can understand that some people want to do that, but then it's the hard work that comes on a training ground. And then, as I said to you, it's that trust between me and the players to trust in what I'm telling them, and then me to trust them to execute that. And the message, as I said, has to be consistent. So when you see players wanting to kick it, no, we don't do that. We don't do that. We don't shy away from it. And, when I first started this job, I had a big afro. Now look at me, I'm bald, where we keep losing the ball at the back. Yeah. So, no, the girls are trying to do their best. And as I said to you, I let the girls know, if it goes wrong, that's on me. That's not on you. That's not on you. That's on me, because that's the way I want you to play. And I want you to be brave. And we are going to make mistakes. And I'm a great believer. It's not the mistake that you make, it's what you do next that counts. And we can recover from that. And if you make a mistake, go again and go again, because eventually, as you said, we started to get it right. And as the game went on, we was able to get out a lot more. And now we're getting more success in games. And as I said, as a coach, it's so important to be consistent.
Well, in that consistency, we'll see this upcoming Sunday, the 27th. We have a 1:30 kickoff at Sequoia High School. So if you're in the area, make sure you go to BayCitiesFC.com. Get your tickets today to come out for that doubleheader. It will be interesting. It will be a great game, and we'll see some of that growth and maturation as the girls get ready to continue this journey with Bay Cities FC. But you've been involved in both men's and women's as it relates to the sides of the game. What has changed in your time as a coach for the women?
Oh, hugely. I think for me coming here, I've been lucky. When I was at Arsenal, we came here, and I was able to work with the likes of Hope Solo and everyone asked me, what do you see the difference? And I said the biomechanics, the way the girls move here is a lot different from in Europe, but it is starting to change now. And though I think maybe in tactical ways, we may be more advanced or slightly more advanced in the UK. Our girls are not so dynamic. Here, the women are really dynamic, and I think that helps with the system of where they play many sports, that hand-eye coordination and balance and stuff like that. It helps. But the women's great game is growing, and so it should. Being involved in it, you do still see or feel this imbalance if I'll be honest. And as a man speaking, I'm saying, okay, it should be there. But I believe if we keep getting this message out, and the likes of myself and other coaches go into the women's game, it's amazing. And they're so committed. They're so committed. And it's an honor. I don't live in Redwood City. I live in Vallejo. So for me to travel to Redwood City every day, I'm getting home sometimes at 11:45 at night. But you know what? I wouldn't want any other way. I love working with these women. Their level of commitment. That's all a coach can ever ask, is someone comes and they're committed and they try their best to get better. Makes my job a lot easier and enjoyable. And I think, as you said, putting it out there, getting a message out there, especially to come and support the women and the men's game, but getting these kids out there. These kids need, especially as we're coming through the pandemic, hopefully, the kids getting out there and seeing this is amazing. And then having it on your doorstep, what a treat. What a treat. And what an inspiration for young kids where they've, unfortunately, have been locked up for a year. Now they can go and watch their local, see an average, in the nicest way, an average woman walking down the street, then go and play for Bay Cities. It's an amazing story. And hopefully people can keep coming out, keep supporting us, because that's how we grow.
So, Coach, you're working alongside, Bev Yanez, who's an excellent player in her own right, playing for, OL Reign, which is known as OL Reign, but playing in Seattle for a period of time, and now working and playing with Cal Storm. But how have you seen with Bay Cities FC? How has Bay Cities FC helped in advancing the women's game in the Bay Area? What have you noticed?
Well, a lot of these women wouldn't have been doing anything now. So they'd have been either in the park trying to practice themselves, or they would have maybe had to stay where they are, where they're at college and stuff like that, where now they're able to come home, spend time with their families, and now they're able to come and play for Bay Cities and be seen by others. So for the women's game, it enhances it hugely, because now, as I said, the girls have something. When they come home, they don't have to just practice by themselves. They can come and have tryouts for Bay City and then potentially play over the summer. We've got big plans at Bay City next year, trying to use some of my connections and through one of my best friends, Jason Roberts, who's the director at CONCACAF. We're trying to organise maybe for Bay Cities to go over the women's side, to go over to the UK and possibly in Europe and play against some teams over there, which is great for these girls, and being part of that. And, it'll be great for them to hopefully be seen by some European teams, which then we can help have that bridge to Europe, and these girls get that experience of playing abroad. So for the community and for the young girls, this is really, truly amazing. It's a dream come true. And as I said, I'm very, very lucky and appreciative of being part of this great football club and making history.
You see this a lot. I mean, especially with some of the leagues that we have currently that play out of the Bay Area and throughout the Americas, where they are able to build players and grow and showcase them to where they get contracts in Iceland or in Sweden, or even make the NWSL. So the hope, I think, is there. And there's definitely a dream that is seen, and it's a vision and a mission that I think, as a club that we'll see happen relatively soon. So next year will be huge if that in fact can happen, to where we get the girls out to the UK. But you've played 3 matches. Quality or characteristic have you seen in your team after those 3 matches? Obviously the changes, right? The maturation and seeing and kind of grabbing what you're trying to implement. What has been the biggest difference you've seen in those 3 matches?
The biggest difference is their ability to take on information. Again, it's different from every coach is different, but certainly for me, from what they've been used to taking on that information, getting in such a short space of time. We only get to work an hour and 15 minutes 3 times a week, which is, in the scale of things, when you look at how many hours we're in a week, that's nothing. So for them to be able to take on that information is amazing. But not only that, their application, and they don't give up. They don't give up. It's easy for them to give up. As I said, we're not paid. Neither of us. I'm not paid. They're not paid. The easy thing would be to give up, but they don't. Some of these girls have children, and they're out there, and they work so hard, and that's tremendous from them. But what they're trying to implement, the passing, playing out from the back, playing through the middle, I can start seeing it now. Yes, there's other areas we could get better at, and there's individual things that we could get better at. But collectively as a squad, in the time we've been together and the time that these girls get to work with us, is amazing from their end. And as I said to you, I'm the lucky guy that gets standing on the sideline shouting and pointing fingers left and right, and these girls keep going. And honestly, it's a real honor to be coaching these girls, and especially coming out of the pandemic, it means even so much more.
Well, again, this weekend, June 27th, 1:30 Sequoia High School. The kickoff will happen at 1:30 and then followed by the men's game. Head over to BayCitiesFC.com. Tickets are $10. It gets you in for both games, so make sure you check it out. The women playing Cal Victory, which should be a really good match. Cal Victory is a very good team out of Marin County, so it should be called for a good match, we hope. But Coach, before I let you go today, I have to ask, it's a question that I think is important to the vision of Bay Cities, but what does community mean to you?
Community is everything. Community means everything. You know, it's the foundation. It's what you grow up in, good, bad, or indifferent, right? It helps to shape you as a person. And, you know, me growing up in my community when I was a young kid, and the people helping me that's what made me want to go into coaching. And the community coming out and supporting these women, as we've seen, it's amazing. And for the young, as I said, for the young kids to be able to see that, to be able to reach out and touch a player, you know, is inspirational. And it means everything. And despite what people's grievances may be with anything, come and support the players. Come and support them, because do you know what? Them girls, they could be your neighbor. And that's what you should be supporting, is these girls, you know, and the men's side, is come and support them, because that makes them grow. And when they grow in confidence, they do better. When they do better, the club grows. When the club grows, when your children grow up, there you go. It's on your doorstep, and you can go and watch your children instead of possibly having to go to another state to see them. So community is so important, and we know that. And the great thing that Anders is trying to do is he wants all the clubs. So it's not just about Juventus, it's about all the clubs coming together. And when them kids get to the age of they're growing out, come to Bay Cities. Come to Bay Cities and come and have a tryout and play some games. And if we can get that message through to every team, then Bay Cities is going to be better off, and so is the community of Redwood City, as well as the others surrounding.
Well, Coach, I really appreciate you taking the time today to join me. I know you're probably itching to get out to training today, so best of luck. Look forward to seeing you again Sunday, 1:30 kickoff, Sequoia High School. The women of Bay Cities FC take on Cal Victory FC, followed by the men at 5 p.m. who play Project 510, the Oakland Roots team. Coach, thank you so much for taking the time. Have a great rest of the day.
You too.
Thank you to everyone for taking the time to join us today for our first Bridge the Bay episode. Hope to see everybody out again Saturday. Tickets on sale today, $10, BayCitiesFC.com. Make sure you get those tickets to get you into both the men's and the women's game. Until Saturday, we'll see everybody then. Thank you. Welcome to Bay Cities FC, where we will become the professional club of choice for the next great generation of top NorCal youth players. We're committed to building a team that is infused with the diverse DNA of our community. Winning is paramount, but never forgetting our roots is our rallying cry. Help us bridge the Bay.